All right, guys, we are back with some more information on the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. Now, this one here specifically is Microsoft's response to the FTC and Sony's wanting to not have to do the subpoena stuff, providing the information. And Microsoft is saying that they should be having to do that and that the motion should be denied for them to not have to provide any information. This was a summary that was created by IDAS on, I believe, Reset Era. And here is just some of the stuff that Microsoft is saying in regards to Sony and the subpoena and the information that they should be providing. It says Sony has unleashed its executives and high-priced economists to petition the commission as well as regulators around the world to block these transactions, which mentions 4 redacted examples. And we heard that Jim Ryan, the executives, they were flying around the world. They were going and trying to present their case as to why this deal should be blocked, really focusing on Call of Duty, that one singular game, which, as we know, Microsoft has offered that 10-year deal to them. So I still don't know how that is even something that these commissions are looking at as something that should really even be considered. A 10-year deal, 10 years is such a long time for a single game to evolve, for things to happen, for competition to be created. We don't even know where Call of Duty is going to be in the next 10 years. And then continues on here. It says Sony's campaign has worked because the commission theory of harm relies almost exclusively on the factually or facially implausible claim that the acquisition is anti-competitive because Microsoft will withhold a single game with Call of Duty, which we already know. Despite the leading charge to stop the transaction, Sony claims it should not be required to produce documents on the very topics it has put at issue. And there you go. Sony doesn't want to provide any documents. They know that if they provide these documents, this is my opinion, but I think that if they know if they provide these documents, their claims, their arguments will be very, very, very hard to back up. It will clearly show that this deal isn't going to make it anti-competitive for Sony. Sony is in such a strong position with PlayStation, with SIE, that these documents will go ahead and prove all of that stuff, and that's probably why they don't want to show them. Now, Microsoft says here that they should produce the documents from Lin Tao and Hideaki Nishino because they are key custodians in this case with the information about SIE's financial health and plans, and they are the head of SIE's hardware business, which again is a massive topic that is being debated here because we've seen from, I think specifically the CMA, but probably also from the FTC, if I recall correctly, is that they were really focusing on the console space as to how this deal is going to have a major effect within the gaming industry, the console space as well as cloud gaming, but really focusing on that hardware of pushing out consoles, where we know Microsoft's main thing here isn't even about pushing out as many consoles as possible. What they want to do is get people playing wherever they are, whatever screen that they're on. So Sony relies on blanket assertions of privilege and the burden of reviewing McCurdy's files because he is a lawyer. But according to his job posting, McCurdy is also responsible for SIE's public policy engagement, and Sony has refused to provide a predecessor custodian for Christian Svensson, who manages SIE's relationship with Activision. So they haven't given anybody else that they can communicate with, try to get these documents from, as Christian Svensson is that main person that was dealing with the Activision. We know Sony is Activision's main customer. We saw that in 2020, and I'm sure in 2021 was huge too, in 2022 huge too, in terms of paying Activision for those rights to put Call of Duty on the platform. Their biggest customer, because tons of people are paying Call of Duty, or playing, like I said, are playing Call of Duty on PlayStation, but also Sony is paying for those marketing rights for Call of Duty. We see all of the stuff with MW2 all marketed with a PlayStation 5, as well as exclusive content that isn't available on other platforms. And that's one of the main things that Sony is arguing that this deal will create, which is not parity across the content for all Call of Duty stuff, which, I mean, it's going to be, there's a higher chance there's going to be parity with Call of Duty if this deal goes through compared to the marketing stuff here where content isn't available on other platforms. Continues on here, Microsoft says that the relationship is the utmost importance, and SIE has not supported its assertion that Svensson's manager would have the same documents as Svensson's predecessor. And regarding the request for data about the performance of SIE's gaming business, Sony has not explained why pulling and producing data from its central files without any need for responsiveness or privilege review would be unduly burdensome. So obviously Sony doesn't want to put the time and the effort to get these documents out, but honestly they probably are able to find this information relatively easily. Again, they just don't want to provide it because it's not going to back up their claims as to why this deal should be blocked. Now there's some more stuff here saying requests 14D and 19 are about specific documents, valuations, board documents, and regulatory submissions related to SIE's cloud gaming acquisitions, Gaikai in 2012 and OnLive in 2015. And that's something that we don't really hear about too often, but Sony, they saw cloud gaming. I mean, they did have PlayStation Now. It just wasn't done very well compared to Game Pass. This is the thing where people are saying that Microsoft is trying to monopolize the cloud gaming space so that nobody else can compete. We've already seen multiple competitors in the space and also multiple competitors fail in the space. It's because they just haven't been able to do it properly. Microsoft came in, Xbox Game Pass came in, and they are doing it way better than anybody else. And yes, they're a $1 trillion company, so they have the infrastructure and they have the money and resources behind them to be able to do it very well. But they're delivering. Can't tell me that Sony doesn't have the money and infrastructure to at least be able to provide a decent service, which they tried to do with PlayStation Now, which didn't go as well as they would have liked. Can't tell me that Google and Google Stadia don't have the money and infrastructure to be able to provide something as good, if not even better, than Xbox Cloud Gaming. So these other companies have tried, they failed. And that's what competition is about. Companies coming in, competing with each other and trying to do things better. And SIE even tried back in 2012 and 2015 purchasing Gaikai and OnLive and all that stuff for cloud gaming. They say Microsoft says that providing targeted information about SIE's own cloud gaming efforts is relevant to assessing the viability of that claim and not unduly burdensome. Microsoft seeks performance reviews for SIE custodians. Microsoft is not seeking to embarrass SIE's leadership. It seeks to understand the metrics on which SIE's executives and businesses are evaluated, which makes sense, and also we'll be able to use that information for showing some of the stuff that Sony is saying isn't true. Request 35 seeks executive copies of content licensing agreements between SIE and third-party gaming publishers. Now that's the big one there for me that I would love to see. Content licensing agreements between Sony and third-party gaming publishers. We'll get a lot more insight into what Sony is doing within this industry in order to make sure that content is not available on other platforms. Microsoft says that these contracts are relevant. They say that they are aware that PlayStation requires many third-party publishers to agree to exclusivity provisions, including preventing the publishers from putting their games on Xbox's multi-game subscription service. Of course, I mean, PlayStation is going to enter into deals to make sure games will get onto Game Pass, but that they do not fully understand the extent of SIE's arrangements or how they impact the industry's competitiveness. And this, like I said, this would be the most interesting thing to see. So this is why I hope this stuff does come out, and especially with like things like parity clauses. Like, we know Series X is a more powerful console. Has PlayStation put any stuff within their deals to make sure that games don't run better on Xbox compared to PlayStation? We saw like the Capcom stuff that came out, but I don't know how extensive that was, and I'm not sure how clear that made it that they were doing that. But we may be able to see more information on just the anti-competitive clauses PlayStation puts into their deals with this third-party stuff. Microsoft requests that Sony produce documents that SIE submitted to these regulatory authorities in connection with the transaction. SIE has refused, agreeing only to produce submissions to the European Commission and United Kingdom's Competition and Markets Authority based on claims of burden. Now, contrary to the allegations that Microsoft will make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox, since announcing the deal, Microsoft has repeatedly offered to enter into an agreement to license Call of Duty to SIE first for 5 years. This is huge because Sony lied. If this is true, Sony lied because Sony came out and they had said previously that they had only offered 3 years. This here is saying in these documents that they had offered 5 years before going to the 10 years, which is an unheard of duration of contract within the gaming industry. And we all knew that when Phil Spencer came out and they made those tweets about the 10 years and they were saying Sony just hasn't agreed to it. It's unprecedented to offer 10 years of your first party game to be guaranteed on your competing platform, which clearly shows that Xbox and Microsoft don't care about taking Call of Duty off of PlayStation. SAA has refused. Microsoft seeks documents about these negotiations, including SIE's internal consideration of Microsoft's offers and why it has refused them. I think that's another big one that a lot of people would love to see. And finally, Request 14F seeks information about SIE's investment in virtual reality technology for its consoles, which SIE executives have highlighted as a strategic imperative and a giant leap forward to the way we play games. I wonder why they want their information on virtual reality. PSVR 2 is just around the corner, just coming out. So who knows what's going to happen here, but let's sit and wait and see if Sony's going to be able to provide those documents, if they'll be forced to provide those documents. I think that they should provide those documents. I think it's a major step in this case. If they aren't able to, if they don't have to provide them, it probably will definitely hurt the chances of this deal going through, at least in my opinion. And if they do provide them, I think it will completely crush Sony's arguments for a lot of the things that they have been saying. But I'm gonna leave that there. Thank you guys for watching. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and help this channel grow, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
We'll be right back.